From the moment that you got your home ready to sell and you put it on the market, what were you waiting for? You're waiting for that offer, or even multiple offers if at all possible. Well, what happens when you get that offer, and how will you know which one is the right one for you? Let's take a closer look at how to evaluate an offer so you can make a well-informed decision that's right for you. My name is Finney, and my passion is to help you make sense of real estate. If you need help finding a top agent near you, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Thank you. All right, my friend, there's probably a lot of questions going through your mind, or some questions that are there that just haven't reached the surface just yet. It's okay. We're going to explore them all and help guide you with the conversations you'll want to have with your trusted real estate advisor as you evaluate the offers that you receive on your home. The first thing to realize is that while the price is important, your net proceeds are more important. The devil really is in the details in a real estate contract. And when we're talking about the devil's being in the details, if your price that you listed for was $500,000 and you received an offer for $520,000, it would seem like a no-brainer to accept that offer. But what happens if they're asking for seller concessions? What happens if they're asking for a lot of additional things in the purchase agreement itself, such as a home warranty, or perhaps asking you to make all the repairs on the house, etc.? There's a lot of different things to consider here, and all of these different things we're considering will impact your net proceeds that are due to you at the end of the day after the home sells and closes. So let's keep that in mind as we move forward with learning how to evaluate the offer you just received. The second thing to consider is, what is the buyer requesting you to make in the form of seller concessions? The most common seller concession that a buyer may ask you for are actually a contribution towards the buyer closing costs themselves. Now, you might be scratching your head wondering, saying, hey, don't I have seller closing costs as it were? Am I not the one paying the real estate commissions and the property transfer taxes and the owner's title policy? Yes, that is correct. At the same time, a buyer may be asking you to pay towards their buyer closing costs. In many parts of the country, the average buyer closing costs are between 2% and 4% of a sales price. Just so that it doesn't get lost in all the words that we're using right now, let's give you an easy to follow example. Let's say that your home is $500,000 and you received an offer of $520,000, and you received a second offer at $500,000. But let's say that the offer that was at $520,000 is requesting that you pay 4% towards the buyer closing costs. Well, if we took $520,000 and we multiplied it by 4%, the sum result is that that buyer is asking to pay for a staggering $20,800. Now, if we put these side by side, a $500,000 offer, your list price, against a $520,000 offer, while the $520,000 looks really nice on paper, once we consider the reduction of the $20,800, it's actually now $800 less than that initial $500,000 offer. It's a really easy way to bring this home. How many devils are in the details when we're looking through a purchase agreement? And that's if we're assuming that your appraised value for the home could go for $520,000. In all probability, in all reality, the reason you went on the market at $500,000 is because that was the fair market price for your home and the best price that you believe that you could get when you listed your house, in review of the conversation you had with your trusted real estate advisor. When you start stretching it up even higher, we run the risk of appraisal issues and the need for further negotiations down the pike. Let's make sure that you make a well-informed decision, look at everything with an open mind and clear eyes. So when you keep your eyes open, ask your trusted real estate advisor to break down what's called an estimated net proceeds anytime you receive an offer, and ask them exactly how much you'll walk away with at the end of the day and what is the buyer asking for in the form of concessions. Another popular option for buyers to ask is for a home warranty. Now, I as a trusted real estate advisor am a proponent of this practice, where I do believe it is a polite and right thing to do as a home seller to offer an incoming buyer a 12-month prepaid home warranty by you, the home seller. The reason being is it gives you peace of mind that you've done everything right in the sale of the home, and it gives a buyer peace of mind throughout the process as well, knowing that they have a 12-month home warranty in place that's going to help insulate them should things like the HVAC go out or the water heater. Having that peace of mind adds an additional layer of comfort through the closing process, and it comes comes at a very low cost, generally about $500 to $1,000, depending on the protection options and the size of the house. A third thing that could come up in the form of seller concessions are the actual repairs themselves. Now, it is important to note that if you're getting ready to list your house and you haven't done so yet, it is extremely prudent to have what's called a pre-listing home inspection. Everything in a home inspection is going to come out one way or another. It's highly likely the buyer is going to do it. It's highly likely they're going to make a repair request. So why not cut that off at the pass by knowing what they're going to be asking for, by getting it done and making the repairs, saving those receipts, and making it available up front. If you do that, you're going to be adding to your own success and your enjoyment during the closing process. The third thing that could come up are the bank requested repairs. When you're wondering about a bank requested repair, exactly how would this happen? Well, if the buyer is getting a home loan, then their lender is going to send out a real estate appraiser. So when the appraiser goes out and does the appraisal, if there's some conditions pursuant to the lending program that aren't meeting the health and safety conditions, the appraiser can say the valuation of this property is $500,000 with the following conditions that must be satisfied before the lender can fund on the loan. What this does is something above and beyond the actual home inspection, even if it is requested for of the buyer and their buyer's repair request, and you initially said no. Well, now if the appraiser is calling it out, it definitely has to become a yes if you hope to close with that prospective buyer. Just be prepared for that and have this conversation up front with your trusted real estate advisor and ask them, is there anything in my house that needs to be corrected from your professional experience that I should do now before we go on the market? Having that conversation up front will save you heartache in the closing process. The fourth thing to keep in mind is to understand as much about the prospective home buyer as possible. Now, how are we going to do this? This is going to be a conversation that you have with your trusted real estate advisor that says, hey, you know what? What have you been able to find out from the buyer agent about this buyer? Have you called the buyer's lender to check out their financial situation and ensure that they're ready to go to actually make good on the offer they presented? Now, while it's highly unlikely you'll be able to find out what the buyer's credit score is, what their annual income is, there are things that we need to know, which takes us to point 5, which is understanding whether the buyer is pre-qualified or pre-approved for their home loan. The difference of which couldn't be more different than night and day. If a buyer has a pre-qualification letter, it's really not worth anything, and you can take it to the toilet right now and toss it in it or use it as you please. It's worthless. A loan pre-approval letter, on the other hand, is after a mortgage lender has reviewed a buyer's income, assets, credit, and employment situation. Loan approval letter will hold weight over the pre-qualification letter. Essentially, when you see all those advertisements on television and on the internet, oh, we can get you pre-qualified in as little as 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, okay, all that is a buyer going on, typing in their information, reporting, or at least stating what they want the lender to know up front about how much money they're saying they earn, and then the lender says, oh, check the pulse. Okay, guess what? Based upon what you provided us, it seems like you would be pre-qualified for this price, subject to change upon verifying your income, assets, credit, and employment. Well, let's not waste time with pre-qualifications. And if you're a buyer right now watching this video and you're going through the loan application process and your income, assets, credit, and employment have not been verified by the mortgage loan provider that you chose, then let's get it right out of the gate, because a seller and a savvy listing agent are going to be reviewing this information together, and a savvy listing agent is going to pick up the phone and call the lender of record and ask them these questions. Have you verified the buyer's income? Have you verified their assets? Have you verified their credit? Have you verified their employment? And did you put them through what's called a direct underwriting system, an automated underwriting system, or did you do a manual underwrite with this? Essentially, where are they on the ability to make good on this loan? Are they solid, or is there still some work to do? We want to know this up front, because getting this right before you accept that offer can either make or break your success in the closing process. The sixth thing to look at is what kind of mortgage does the buyer have? Is it a VA loan, FHA loan, USDA loan, conventional, or are they paying you cash? Well, obviously with cash, well, cash can be king in some ways, but at the end of the day, the real effect to you is still going to be the same, that you're going to get a lump sum of money of the equity that hopefully you're going to get back out of your property because you sold for a profit, right? Well, if you accept a VA, FHA, or USDA loan, these are federally insured loans. They have their own rules about health and safety conditions that must be met pursuant to the lending guidelines. If you accept a conventional loan, they can be a little bit more forgiving in certain ways. At the same time, there's still going to be minimum health and safety requirements pursuant to the lending program in the state that you're selling your house. At the end of the day, just know what the loan type is and what your responsibilities are as a seller accepting that. An FHA loan is going to have different requirements than VA. VA is going to be different than USDA, and they're all going to be different than conventional. Just know which the loan type is and what your responsibilities and obligations are as a seller for accepting that offer as you move forward in selecting the right offer for you. The seventh thing that you want to consider is what close of escrow date are they looking for? Is it a time that's acceptable for you? If you're in the process of purchasing a new home construction or trying to buy a house after you sell this one, well, maybe a shorter escrow is preferable depending on where you're in that process, or a longer closing process escrow period would be more preferable to you. Either way, look at the dates and make sure those dates are convenient. In real estate practice here in Las Vegas, Nevada, I have worked with buyers that have got their offer accepted because they were flexible to the seller's schedule and what the seller was trying to do next. I've also worked with sellers that have accepted not necessarily the highest or even the best offer that was on the table because of what the buyer was willing to do to work with the seller's schedule. If that's something important to you, review that information with your trusted real estate advisor to select the right offer with the best closing terms and time for you. The eighth thing that you want to know is how long is it going to take for the buyer to get their final approval from the mortgage underwriter. Now you might be thinking, well, a moment ago, Andrew, you were saying that they should have a pre-approval, which is verification of the income, assets, credit, and employment. Yes, that's absolutely correct. It's very strong and it's likely went through an automated underwriting system. Now, when you move into the closing process, everything with that loan takes a whole different spin with the loan originator and the lending company itself. So what happens is they now have a property that they need to get this appraisal done on, and that they also have to start reviewing all the conditions of the property and the property taxes associated with it, any HOA fees associated with it. All this information after that appraisal gets done goes to the mortgage underwriter, who takes a fine-tooth comb to it, provides any list of conditions to the buyer that need to be satisfied to make good on that loan. We want to know from the perspective of you as a home seller, how long does that process generally take? It could be 21 days, it could be 23 days, it could be 17 days. Generally, you're somewhere between the 2.5 and 3.5 week time frame in a closing process before you'll get a final mortgage underwriter approval on their home loan. Just know what it is and see if it's a contingency in the contract. The ninth thing goes back to the closing date. When is it? And are you going to be able to get out of the house by then? It will be the expectation, unless otherwise negotiated between you and the buyer, that you will be out of the property by the time that property closes. Here in Las Vegas, Nevada, that's called recording. So after the loan has been funded, it goes to the county assessor's office. Once it records, then it is now put out of your name and into the new buyer's name. That is a done deal. You as a seller are expected to be out unless there was a post-possession agreement in place or some other negotiation that you went through your trusted real estate advisor and they worked with the other trusted real estate advisor to have a different agreement for time of possession. In many cases, you are expected to be out of the house the day of closing, if not a day before. I normally recommend being out the day before so you have the opportunity to get the house cleaned. It is the polite and right thing to do after all. So make sure that you give yourself a little bit of leeway here and don't wait to the last minute to pack up. Come closing day, it's your time to get out. The 10th thing you want to review are the actual contingencies of the contract. What contingencies are in the contract? And a contingency, for reference, is simply a term in the contract that means that the buyer's offer is contingent upon a certain criteria being met before they can make good on the home loan. Now, generally this leads in with what's called buyer's due diligence, which could be 10 to 15 days. And in that 10 to 15 days, the buyer reserves the right to back out of the contract, get their earnest money deposit back if something goes awry or something does not check out in their due diligence. Now, something along that nature could constitute their home inspection. If they submit a repair request to you and you weren't negotiable on it, they could technically back out and say, you know what, the home inspection was its own contingency anyways, and if we've reached an impasse, perhaps it's time to go. So you have buyer due diligence, you got home inspection, they're also going to have an appraisal contingency, they're going to have a financing contingency, you're going to have, if you're in an HOA community, they're going to have the opportunity to get a copy of the covenants, codes, and restrictions, review them and agree with them or disagree with them in writing. And if they do disagree with them, then they have the opportunity to back out. Know what these contingencies are and work with your trusted real estate advisor to secure your position throughout the closing process, and work to answer as many questions openly and honestly as possible. We as people tend to do extremely good with good news. We tend to do okay with bad news, but we all do absolutely awful with no news. Being transparent through the process and being workable and negotiable through the process will see you through to accepting the right offer for you and closing on your new home so you can get on to your next destination. The 11th thing that you want to know is what type of home inspections will the buyer be performing? There's more than just a general home inspection that could take place. In fact, there are over 17 different types of home inspections that a buyer could request depending on what part of the country you're selling your house. Let's take a quick look at some of the more common ones that you may experience depending on where you live. The first one is the general home inspection. The second is a radon inspection. The third is a structural inspection, which probably wouldn't be needed unless something came up from the general home inspection that they suggested there's the need of a structural inspection to go out. The fourth is a septic inspection if you're not on municipal sewer. The fifth is a well water inspection, again, if you're not on municipal water. The sixth is a chimney inspection, and the seventh is a pest inspection. Again, you can have up to 17 of those from a prospective home buyer. So you want to know what their home inspections are that they plan to do, and when do those contingencies fall out of the contract, and by what time frame must those inspections be performed. Review that information with your trusted real estate advisor. The 12th thing that you want to know, does the buyer have a home of their own they have to sell to buy yours? This is known as a contingent upon sell. Now, a contingent upon sell isn't exactly an awful thing, it's not exactly a great thing. It depends on where they are in the contingent upon sell process. Most of us in the country, when real estate does really good, we are selling a house to buy another one, whether it's a new construction, whether it's moving out of state, whether we're downsizing. You get the point here. A lot of us have a home to sell to move on to the next one. It's called a contingent upon sell. We need to know if the buyer that is making the offer to you has a home they need to sell first. If so, we have a few questions we need to answer. There are 5 questions about a contingent upon sell that you as a seller want to get answered. The first question is, if they have their home listed for sale, have they received any offers yet? The second question, if they haven't received any offers, have they been getting a lot of showings? The third is, if they do have an offer on their home, how far along is the buyer on the home in their sale process? The fourth is, have they completed any home inspections? The fifth would be, has the appraisal been completed? And a 6th bonus question here that you might want to ask is, has the buyer of their home received their formal mortgage loan commitment? Knowing all of the answers to these questions if you're entertaining a contingent upon sale from the buyer that wishes to purchase your home are extremely important prior to pulling the trigger and saying, yes, I want to accept the offer. Depending on the market conditions and what makes the market tick, where tick is an acronym, trends, indicators, and conditions, may dictate how flexible you may need to be as a seller whenever you choose to sell your home. If you haven't had a lot of offers, or if it's taken a long time to sell your house, you might want to be more open-minded to these different things. At the same time, you still want to get these questions answered so you can make a decision that's right for you. And the 13th thing are final thoughts. I hope you're having fun in the home selling process right now, or if you're getting ready to put your home on the market, you feel a lot more confident about what to expect moving forward. At the same time, it is really exciting to receive an offer on your home when you're on the market. This is your time. Let's make you shine and work with your trusted real estate advisor to make a well-informed decision that's right for you. So now let's take a look at the 20 questions you want to ask a listing agent and the 7 things not to say when selling a house. Looking forward to our next conversation. We'll see you in a few.